Have you ever noticed that some people seem to age differently than others? Not in the obvious ways, the wrinkles or the gray hair, but in the way they move through their days. The ones who still bend to tie their shoes without bracing themselves against the wall. The ones who rise from a chair in one smooth motion. The ones who remember names and appointments without scribbled notes. For years, we've been told this is simply luck, the genetic lottery. Good genes. Being born with a better constitution. But what if that explanation misses something essential? What if the difference between those who glide through their later years and those who struggle has less to do with inheritance and more to do with a pattern of small, almost invisible choices made each morning? The kind of choices so simple they're easy to overlook. The kind of choices no doctor ever mentioned because they seem too ordinary to matter. Yet research from some of the world's most respected institutions suggests these ordinary moments may be exactly where independence is either preserved or gradually lost. Not through dramatic interventions, but through the quiet accumulation of how we begin each day. You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging. The architecture of a long life. Small practices. Lasting strength. A gentle beginning. There is a question worth considering each morning, though most of us never ask it. The question is not about what we need to accomplish, or who needs our attention, or what worries we carry from the day before. The question is simpler and more fundamental. What does this body of mine require right now, in this moment, as it makes the transition from rest to activity? For much of our lives, we move through mornings on autopilot. Feet hit the floor. Thoughts race ahead to the demands waiting. And the body is expected to keep up without complaint. This approach serves us reasonably well when we are young. But as the decades accumulate, the body's needs shift. The same morning habits that once felt automatic may begin to feel insufficient, or even counterproductive. The stiffness that greets you when you swing your legs out of bed. The slight dizziness when you stand too quickly. The mental fog that lingers longer than it used to. These are not simply signs of aging to be accepted with resignation. They are communications from a body that is asking for something different than it needed at 30 or 40 or 50. The good news, if it can be called that, is that the adjustments required are not dramatic. They do not demand expensive equipment, radical dietary changes, or hours of dedicated time. They ask only for attention and consistency, for a willingness to notice what the body is saying and to respond with small, appropriate actions. This is not the stuff of miracle cures or revolutionary breakthroughs. It is the quieter work of aligning your daily habits with the body you have now, rather than the body you remember from decades past. What follows is an exploration of that alignment. It draws on observations from longevity research, from populations around the world where people live remarkably long and healthy lives, and from the simple physiology of how human bodies change with time. The goal is not to prescribe a rigid program, but to offer a framework, a way of thinking about the small choices that accumulate into a life of sustained strength and clarity. Part 1. Understanding the terrain, the body's changing priorities. To understand why morning practices matter more as we age, it helps to consider what happens inside the body during a typical night of sleep. This is not a period of complete shutdown, but of active maintenance. While you rest, your body is repairing tissues, consolidating memories, clearing metabolic waste, and preparing for the demands of the coming day. All of this work requires energy and resources, and it occurs without any intake of food or water. By morning, certain deficits have accumulated. Fluid levels are lower than when you went to sleep. The blood has become slightly more concentrated. In the joints, the lubricating synovial fluid has thickened from hours of stillness. Muscles, deprived of new protein for many hours, have entered a state where they are more likely to break down than to build up. The circulatory system, which relied on gravity and muscle movement during the day to assist blood flow, must now overcome the effects of a night spent lying flat. For a younger person, these morning deficits are easily corrected. The body springs into action, adjusting blood pressure upon standing, mobilizing energy stores, and quickly restoring equilibrium. But with age, these regulatory systems become less responsive. The blood pressure adjustment may be slower, leading to dizziness. The muscles may be slower to shift from breakdown to building mode. The joints may resist movement until they have been gently warmed. This is not a failure of the body. It is simply a change in its operating characteristics. And like any change, it can be accommodated with appropriate adjustments. The key is to understand what the body needs during this transition and to provide it consistently. The cumulative nature of health. One of the most important insights from longevity research is that health in later years is not determined by occasional dramatic interventions, but by the accumulation of countless small choices. The person who remains strong and clear-minded at 85 did not arrive there through a single breakthrough treatment or a brief period of intense effort. They arrived there through decades of consistent patterns: how they moved, what they ate, how they managed stress, how they began each day. This is encouraging news because it means that the power to influence your trajectory lies largely within your own hands. The choices you make tomorrow morning matter. They matter not because any single choice will transform your health, but because each choice is a brick in the foundation. Over time, the foundation becomes solid and reliable, or it becomes shaky and unpredictable. The choice is yours, made not in one dramatic moment, but in the quiet continuity of daily life. The practices described in the sections that follow are best understood not as a checklist to be completed, but as a set of principles to be embodied. They are not rules to follow rigidly, but rhythms to establish. The goal is not perfection, but consistency, a gentle, sustainable approach that you can maintain not for weeks, but for years. Part 2. The first gift, morning hydration. Why water matters first. Consider what your body has been doing while you slept. Your heart has been beating continuously, pumping blood through vessels that reach every corner of your body. Your lungs have been drawing in air and releasing moisture with each breath. Your skin has been losing water through insensible perspiration. Your kidneys have been processing waste, though at a reduced rate. All of these functions require water, yet for 7 to 9 hours, no water has entered your system. By the time you open your eyes, you are operating at a fluid deficit. This is not a dramatic dehydration. You are not in danger, but it is a measurable state that affects how your body functions. The blood is slightly thicker than it was when you went to sleep. This means the heart must work slightly harder to pump it. The brain, which is highly sensitive to fluid levels, may function less efficiently. The digestive system, preparing for the day's work, lacks the fluid it needs to operate smoothly. For older adults, this morning deficit carries additional significance. Research has observed that the risk of cardiovascular events is not evenly distributed throughout the day. It peaks in the morning hours, particularly in the first 2 hours after waking. Many factors contribute to this pattern, but dehydration is among them. Thicker blood flowing through vessels that may have some age-related stiffening creates a combination that increases strain on the cardiovascular system. The simple act of drinking water upon waking addresses this deficit directly. It dilutes the blood slightly, reducing the workload on the heart. It provides fluid for the brain to function optimally. It signals to every system in the body that the fasting period has ended and that resources are now available. Temperature and timing. The temperature of the water matters less than the fact of drinking it, though warm water may offer certain advantages. Cold water can be a mild shock to the system, causing some blood vessels to constrict briefly. Warm water is more easily absorbed and may be more comfortable to drink first thing in the morning. particularly for those who are sensitive to cold. The timing, however, is significant. Drinking water after you have already begun your day, after coffee, after breakfast, after checking the news, still provides hydration. But it misses the window when the body is most in need. The first minutes after waking are when the deficit is greatest and when rehydration offers the most benefit. This is why many traditional health practices across cultures emphasize morning hydration as a foundational habit. The quantity need not be large. 6 to 8 ounces is sufficient, roughly the size of a small glass. The goal is not to flood the system, but to gently remind it that hydration is now available. Some people find it helpful to keep a glass of water by the bedside. Though room temperature water that has sat overnight may be less appealing than fresh water drawn in the morning, the addition of citrus, the practice of adding lemon to morning water, appears in many traditions. And there are plausible reasons why this simple addition may offer benefits beyond hydration alone. Lemons contain vitamin C, a nutrient involved in immune function and in the protection of cells from oxidative stress. They also provide small amounts of potassium, an electrolyte that helps maintain proper fluid balance within cells and supports the function of nerves and muscles. The citrus compounds in lemons have also been observed to support the body's production of collagen, the structural protein that gives skin its resilience and joints their cushioning. Collagen production naturally declines with age, contributing to thinner skin and stiffer joints. Any dietary support for collagen synthesis, however modest, may be helpful in maintaining these tissues. There is also the matter of simple enjoyment. Water with lemon is more flavorful than plain water, which may encourage consistent consumption. And the ritual of slicing a lemon, squeezing it into warm water, and inhaling the fresh citrus scent can be a pleasant way to begin the day, a small sensory pleasure that anchors the practice in something more than obligation. A note on digestion. Many people observe that warm lemon water seems to settle well in the stomach and may support digestive comfort. This is consistent with the observation that hydration before eating prepares the digestive system for the work ahead. The stomach and intestines require adequate fluid to process food effectively, and providing that fluid before the first meal may contribute to smoother digestion throughout the day. There is no need to overcomplicate this practice. A glass of warm water with a squeeze of fresh lemon, consumed slowly in the first minutes after waking, is simply a way of acknowledging what the body needs and providing it. This is not medicine. It is kindness. Part 3. The transition from rest to motion. The circulatory challenge. When you have been lying flat for hours, blood distributes itself differently than when you are upright. Gravity, which during the day pulls blood toward your feet, is absent during sleep. Blood pools more evenly throughout the body, with a greater proportion in the veins of the legs and abdomen. This is not a problem while you remain horizontal. But when you stand, gravity reasserts itself, and blood rushes downward. In a younger person, the circulatory system responds instantly. Blood vessels constrict to maintain pressure. The heart rate increases slightly to compensate. Blood continues to flow to the brain without interruption. The transition from lying to standing happens so smoothly that you are not even aware of it. With age, this response becomes slower and less reliable. The blood vessels may not constrict as quickly. The heart may not accelerate as promptly. For a few seconds after standing, blood flow to the brain may decrease slightly. This is what causes the dizziness or lightheadedness that many older adults experience when they rise too quickly. In medical terms, it is called orthostatic hypotension, a temporary drop in blood pressure upon standing. For most people, this is merely an uncomfortable sensation that passes quickly, but it carries real risk. If the dizziness is severe enough, it can lead to loss of balance and a fall. And falls in older adults are not minor events. They are a leading cause of injury, loss of independence, and decline. The simple act of standing up too quickly can, in a chain of events, alter the entire trajectory of a life. The muscle pump. Fortunately, the body has a built-in mechanism for assisting blood flow from the legs back toward the heart. It is called the muscle pump, and it relies on the contraction of the calf muscles. When these muscles tighten, they squeeze the veins that run through them, pushing blood upward. When they relax, the veins refill. This rhythmic action, repeated constantly throughout the day as you walk and move, supplements the heart's pumping action and ensures that blood returns efficiently from the lower body. During sleep, however, the calf muscles are still. The muscle pump is inactive. Blood that is pooled in the legs overnight remains there until you begin to move. If you stand suddenly, that blood must be moved against gravity without the assistance of muscle contractions, at least until you take your first steps. The solution is to activate the muscle pump before you stand, or immediately upon standing, giving your circulation a head start. This does not require vigorous exercise. It requires only a few gentle movements that contract the calf muscles and begin the process of moving blood upward. A gentle sequence. After your morning hydration, before you move on to other activities, consider taking 1 minute for this simple sequence. Stand near your bed or hold on to a stable surface for balance if needed. The movements are not demanding, but they are purposeful. Begin by standing with your feet about shoulder width apart. Take a slow, full breath in through your nose, and as you inhale, raise your arms gently overhead. This is not a stretch, but an opening, a way of expanding the chest and signaling to your body that the day is beginning. Exhale slowly as you lower your arms. Next, roll your shoulders backward in slow circles, 5 times. Then roll them forward, 5 times. This releases the tension that accumulates in the upper back and neck during sleep and encourages blood flow to the head and neck. The shoulders are often overlooked in morning routines, yet they carry much of the day's stress. Now focus on the calves. Rise up onto your toes, lifting your heels as high as comfortable. Then lower back down. Repeat this 10 times. Each lift contracts the calf muscles, squeezing blood upward from the legs. Each lowering allows the veins to refill. With 10 repetitions, you have effectively jump-started the muscle pump, sending a wave of blood toward the heart and brain. The entire sequence requires no more than 60 seconds. Yet those 60 seconds address the physiological challenge of the morning transition. They reduce the risk of dizziness and falls. They improve circulation to the brain, which may contribute to clearer thinking. And they establish a pattern of moving with intention rather than rushing through the start of the day. Beyond the cardiovascular, this circulation reset offers benefits that extend beyond heart and blood vessels. The gentle movements also stimulate the lymphatic system, which is responsible for clearing waste and toxins from the tissues. Unlike the cardiovascular system, which has the heart to keep it moving, the lymphatic system relies entirely on muscle contraction and body movement to circulate. When you move upon waking, you are not just protecting against dizziness, you are supporting your body's fundamental cleansing processes. There is also a neurological benefit. Moving deliberately upon waking sends signals through the nervous system that help coordinate balance and spatial awareness. The brain receives information about where the body is in space and begins to calibrate for the demands of upright movement. This is particularly valuable for older adults, for whom the integration of balance and movement becomes more complex and requires more conscious attention. Part 4. The building blocks of strength. The overnight shift. Sleep is a time of restoration, but it is also a period of fasting. For 7 to 9 hours, the body receives no fuel. To maintain essential functions, breathing, circulation, Temperature regulation. It must draw on its internal stores. In younger adults, the body preferentially uses stored fat for this purpose. But with age, this metabolic preference shifts. Research has observed that older adults are more likely to break down muscle tissue for energy during the overnight fast. This process, called catabolism, occurs quietly, night after night. The amount of muscle lost on any single night is negligible, barely measurable, but over months and years, the cumulative effect is significant. Muscle mass declines, strength diminishes, balance becomes less steady, the risk of falls increases, and the ability to recover from illness or injury decreases. This gradual loss of muscle is so common with age that it has been given a name: sarcopenia. It is often accepted as an inevitable part of growing older. But research suggests that while some muscle loss may be difficult to prevent entirely, the rate and severity of loss can be significantly influenced by lifestyle choices, particularly by the timing and composition of meals. The anabolic window. The body's ability to use protein for muscle repair and building is not constant throughout the day. There appears to be a period, roughly 30 to 60 minutes after waking, when muscles are particularly receptive to the amino acids that protein provides. This is sometimes called the anabolic window, and it represents an opportunity to shift the body from breakdown mode to building mode. Consuming protein during this window sends a clear signal to the body. The fasting period is over, and building materials are now available. Instead of continuing to dismantle muscle tissue for fuel, the body begins to repair and strengthen. The process of muscle protein synthesis is activated, and the net loss of overnight is reversed. The quantity of protein needed to trigger this response has been studied extensively. For older adults, research suggests that approximately 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein at breakfast produces optimal results. This is enough to stimulate muscle synthesis without being so much that it feels burdensome first thing in the morning. Smaller amounts may be less effective. Larger amounts may not provide additional benefit and may simply be processed for energy or stored. Practical approaches. Meeting this protein target does not require elaborate meal preparation or expensive supplements. Many common foods can provide the needed protein in forms that are easy to prepare and pleasant to eat. 2 large eggs contain approximately 12 grams of protein. Add a serving of Greek yogurt, which provides 15 to 20 grams depending on the brand, and you have easily reached the target. Cottage cheese is another excellent option, with about 14 grams per half cup. A simple smoothie made with milk, a scoop of protein powder, and a banana can deliver 25 grams or more in a form that is easy to consume even when appetite is limited. For those who prefer plant-based options, tofu and tempeh are protein-rich. A half cup of cooked lentils provides about 9 grams. Plant-based protein powders can be added to oatmeal or smoothies. Even a handful of nuts or seeds contributes meaningful protein, though they are rarely sufficient alone to reach the 25-gram target. The key is not perfection, but consistency. A high-protein breakfast once or twice a week will not protect against muscle loss. The benefit accumulates through daily practice. Each morning, sending the same message to your body. We are rebuilding. We are strengthening. We are investing in the future. Addressing morning appetite. Many older adults find that they are not hungry upon waking. Decades of habit may have trained them to skip breakfast or to consume only coffee. This is understandable, but worth reconsidering in light of what research suggests about muscle preservation. If appetite is limited, start small. A few bites of Greek yogurt. Half a protein shake. 1 egg with a slice of toast. Even a small amount of protein consumed consistently is more protective than none at all. Over time, as the body adjusts to morning nourishment, appetite may naturally increase. The goal is not force-feeding, but gentle. consistent provision of what the body needs. Think of it as offering your muscles the building blocks they require before you ask them to carry you through another day. The body responds to what it receives. If it receives nothing, it continues to draw on its own tissues. If it receives something, it shifts toward repair. Beyond muscle, the benefits of morning protein extend beyond muscle preservation. Protein at breakfast helps regulate blood sugar throughout the day, reducing the spikes and crashes that can leave you feeling drained by mid-morning. It supports the production of neurotransmitters that affect mood and focus. It contributes to satiety, making it easier to maintain a healthy weight without constant hunger. There is also evidence that protein distribution matters. Many older adults consume most of their protein at dinner, with very little at breakfast and lunch. This pattern may be less effective for muscle maintenance than spreading protein more evenly across meals. The body can only use a certain amount of protein at one time for muscle synthesis. The rest is processed for energy or stored. By providing a substantial portion of daily protein at breakfast, you ensure that your muscles have access to building materials when they are most receptive. Part 5. The lubrication of movement. Why stiffness happens. The stiffness that greets many older adults in the morning has a specific physiological cause. Within each joint, a fluid called synovial fluid acts as a lubricant and shock absorber. During the day, as you move, this fluid circulates freely, coating the surfaces of the joint and reducing friction between bones. It is an elegant system, requiring no conscious effort, operating silently in the background. At night, when you lie still for hours, the synovial fluid thickens. It becomes more viscous, less mobile. The joints are still lubricated, but the fluid has settled and congealed. When you first attempt to move in the morning, the joints operate without their normal ease of motion. This is what creates the sensation of stiffness, the feeling that you must work through resistance before movement becomes comfortable. This is not damage. It is not arthritis, though arthritis can exacerbate the sensation. It is simply the consequence of stillness. The solution is not to avoid movement, but to move gently, allowing the synovial fluid to warm up and circulate before you place significant demands on the joints. Gentle mobilization, a very short sequence of gentle movements, performed before you ask your joints to bear weight or move through their full ranges, can restore synovial fluid circulation and significantly reduce morning stiffness. The movements need not be vigorous or prolonged. They need only to move each joint through its normal range, encouraging the fluid to spread and thin. Begin seated on the edge of the bed. Extend one leg and rotate the ankle in slow circles, 10 times clockwise, then 10 times counterclockwise. The ankle joint, which bears your entire body weight when you stand and walk, benefits from this gentle awakening. Repeat with the other ankle. Still seated, bring one knee toward your chest and make slow circles with the whole leg, rotating from the hip. 10 circles in one direction, then 10 in the other. This movement mobilizes both the hip joint and the knee, two of the body's largest and most heavily used joints. Repeat with the other leg. Stand up, holding onto a stable surface for balance if needed. Gently shift your weight from side to side, allowing your hips to move naturally. 10 repetitions. This further activates the hip joints and reminds them of their full range of motion. Finally, twist your upper body slowly from side to side, allowing your arms to swing naturally. 10 times. Then roll your shoulders backward in circles. 10 times. This addresses the stiffness that often accumulates in the spine and shoulders during sleep. The entire sequence requires approximately 90 seconds. It is not stretching in the traditional sense. You are not holding positions or attempting to increase flexibility. You are simply moving your joints through their normal ranges. encouraging the synovial fluid to warm up and circulate. The protective effect. Regular joint mobilization offers benefits beyond immediate comfort. By moving your joints gently each morning, you help maintain the health of the cartilage that cushions your bones. Cartilage has no blood supply of its own. It receives nutrients through the movement of synovial fluid. When you move, you pump nutrients into the cartilage and waste products out. When you remain still, this exchange slows. There is also a fall prevention benefit. Stiff joints do not respond as quickly when you need to correct your balance. A stumble that could be corrected easily by a flexible, well-lubricated joint may lead to a fall when joints are stiff and slow to respond. Those 90 seconds each morning are an investment in your ability to recover from the unexpected, a misplaced step, an uneven surface, a momentary loss of balance. Movement as information. There is another way to think about morning joint mobilization. Each movement sends information to your brain about where your body is in space. The brain receives signals from the joints, muscles, and tendons, building a continuous picture of your body's position and orientation. This sensory input is essential for balance and coordinated movement. When you move gently upon waking, you are not just lubricating joints. You are waking up the sensory systems that keep you steady throughout the day. You are reminding your brain of the body it inhabits. This is particularly valuable as we age, because the sensory systems that support balance become less acute. Regular movement helps maintain their function. Part 6. The mind's morning exercise. The brain's overnight work. While you slept, your brain was not idle. It was engaged in essential maintenance. Memories from the day were being consolidated, filed away for long-term storage. Learning was being integrated. Metabolic waste products, the natural byproducts of neural activity, were being cleared through a system that operates primarily during sleep. When you wake, your brain is freshly oxygenated and primed for engagement. The neurons are ready. The pathways are clear. This morning state offers an ideal opportunity for gentle cognitive exercise, not demanding mental work that creates stress, but engaging activity that stimulates neural pathways without causing frustration. The practice of recall. One simple practice for morning cognitive engagement involves recalling the previous day's events in reverse chronological order. Rather than moving from morning to evening, you move from evening back to morning, retrieving as many details as possible along the way. The practice takes only a few minutes. After completing your physical morning routine, hydration, circulation, protein, joint mobilization, find a comfortable place to sit. Close your eyes and take several slow, full breaths. Then begin. Think first about last night. What did you eat for dinner? Who were you with? What did you watch on television or read before bed? What time did you go to sleep? Try to recall specific details, the taste of the food, the expression on a loved one's face, the title of the program. Then move backward to the evening hours. What happened after dinner? Did you take a walk? Make a phone call? Wash dishes? Continue moving backward through the afternoon, the midday, the morning. Finally, arrive at the moment you woke up yesterday, the first sound you heard, the first thing you saw, how you felt as you opened your eyes. The goal is not perfect recall. It is the act of trying, of engaging your memory systems, of connecting the dots of your experience in a new way. If you cannot remember something, that is fine. Simply move on to the next memory that arises. Why reverse order matters. Retrieving memories in reverse order requires your brain to work differently than it does in forward recall. Forward recall, telling the story of your day in chronological order, is what you naturally do when someone asks what you did yesterday. The narrative structure provides a framework that makes retrieval easier. Reverse recall strips away that framework. You cannot rely on the flow of the day to guide you. You must reconstruct events without the usual narrative cues. This engages different neural pathways and strengthens your memory system in a more comprehensive way. It is like taking a different route to a familiar destination. You see new things, make new connections, and strengthen your mental map of the territory. Research in cognitive neuroscience has observed that this type of memory exercise stimulates the hippocampus, the brain region most responsible for forming and retrieving memories. The hippocampus is also one of the first areas affected by age-related cognitive decline. Regular stimulation helps maintain its function. Beyond memory, the benefits of this practice extend beyond memory itself. By consciously recalling the previous day, you reinforce your connection to your own experience. You remember the small pleasures, the connections with others, the moments of beauty or contentment that might otherwise slip away. This daily review can foster a sense of gratitude and continuity. There is also an emotional benefit. Many people find that taking a few minutes each morning to quietly review yesterday helps them feel more grounded and less reactive. They begin the day with a sense of where they have been, which provides context for where they are going. The practice is calming, centering, a way of gathering yourself before the world makes its demands. Consistency over intensity, like the physical practices described earlier. Reverse memory recall works best when practiced consistently. 5 minutes each morning, every morning, produces far greater benefit than an hour of intense mental exercise once a week. The brain responds to regular, gentle stimulation, to the daily message that its abilities are valued and needed. The practice also requires no special equipment, no apps, no puzzles, no training, just a quiet moment and a little intention. It is accessible to anyone, regardless of physical limitations or cognitive baseline. And it is infinitely adaptable. You can recall more or fewer details, spend more or less time. Focus on different aspects of your experience each day. Part 7. The integration of practice. Weaving the threads. The practices described in the preceding sections are not separate disciplines to be mastered. They are threads that weave together into a single fabric, a way of beginning each day that honors the body's needs and prepares it for what lies ahead. Hydration upon waking addresses the fluid deficit accumulated overnight and supports cardiovascular function. Gentle movement activates circulation and wakes the muscle pump, protecting against dizziness and falls. Protein within the first half hour shifts the body from breakdown to repair mode, preserving muscle and strength. Joint mobilization lubricates the moving parts, reducing stiffness and protecting cartilage. Memory recall stimulates the brain, strengthening neural pathways and grounding you in your own experience. Each of these practices is small. Together, they form a coherent approach to the morning transition that addresses the body's major systems: cardiovascular, muscular, skeletal, nervous, in a logical sequence. Water first, because hydration supports everything else. Then movement, because circulation prepares the body for activity. Then nourishment, because protein provides the building blocks for repair. Then joint care, because lubricated joints move more easily. Then mental engagement, because a stimulated brain functions more clearly. The question of time. One of the most common objections to any morning routine is lack of time. The days feel crowded, the demands pressing. Adding anything new can seem overwhelming. But consider the actual time required. Hydration takes 1 minute. The circulation reset takes 1 minute. Preparing and eating a protein-rich breakfast takes perhaps 10 minutes. Though much of that is eating time that would be spent on breakfast anyway. Joint mobilization takes 90 seconds. Memory recall takes 3 to 5 minutes. The total is approximately 15 to 20 minutes, less than the time many people spend scrolling through news or social media before getting out of bed. The question is not whether you have time. The question is whether you choose to prioritize these practices. And the evidence suggests that this small investment of time each morning yields returns that compound over months and years. Better balance, stronger muscles, more comfortable joints, clearer thinking, greater confidence in your body's ability to carry you through the day. The rhythm of consistency. These practices work best when they become rhythmic, not something you decide each morning whether to do, but something you do automatically, like brushing your teeth. The goal is to establish a pattern so familiar that it requires no willpower, no deliberation, no internal negotiation. You simply wake up and begin. This is why sequence matters. When the practices are arranged in a logical order, each one flows naturally into the next. Hydration leads to standing, which leads to movement, which leads to the kitchen for breakfast, which leads to joint mobilization while you wait for food to settle, which leads to a quiet moment for memory recall. The sequence becomes a ritual, and rituals have power that isolated actions lack. Adapting to individual needs. The practices described here are not rigid prescriptions. They are templates that can be adapted to individual circumstances and preferences. If you cannot stand for the circulation reset, you can perform seated ankle and calf movements. If you do not tolerate citrus, plain water is perfectly sufficient. If you prefer a different form of morning protein, any high-quality source will serve. If joint limitations prevent certain movements, you can modify or omit them. The principles matter more than the specific practices. Hydrate upon waking. Move gently before demanding activity. Provide protein early. Lubricate joints through range of motion movement. Engage the mind in recall. How you accomplish these principles can be tailored to your body, your preferences, your life. Part 8. The deeper context. Patterns across populations. Observations of populations where people live exceptionally long. Healthy lives reveal certain consistent patterns. These are not secrets or mysteries, but simple, repeatable practices that have been part of human life for millennia. People in these populations typically begin their days with water or tea, not with stimulants. They move frequently throughout the day, not in concentrated bursts of exercise, but in constant, low-level activity. They eat their largest meal earlier in the day, not late in the evening. They maintain social connections and a sense of purpose. They do not rush. The morning practices described in this essay align with these patterns. Morning hydration is universal across traditional cultures. Gentle movement upon waking mirrors the natural rhythm of bodies that have not been trained to leap from bed and rush into activity. Protein at breakfast reflects the traditional pattern of eating more earlier and less later. Joint mobilization is simply a focused version of the constant movement that characterizes active lifestyles. Memory recall connects you to your experience and your story. The body's wisdom. There is a tendency in modern life to override the body's signals with stimulants and willpower. Coffee to replace sleep. Sugar to replace nourishment. Adrenaline to replace energy. This approach works for a while, but eventually the body demands attention. The signals that were ignored become louder. The accommodations that were postponed become unavoidable. The alternative is to listen from the beginning, to treat the body's signals as information rather than inconvenience. Morning stiffness is not an annoyance to be ignored. It is a communication that your joints need gentle movement before heavy use. Morning thirst is not a nuisance to be postponed until after coffee. It is a request for hydration. Morning mental fog is not a sign of aging to be accepted. It is an invitation to engage your brain in ways that sharpen rather than dull. The body you have now is not the body you had at 25. It has carried you through decades of experience, through joy and sorrow, through work and rest. It deserves to be treated with respect. It deserves the small kindness of a morning routine designed to support its needs. The long view. Health in later years is not determined by any single choice, but by the accumulation of countless small choices over time. The person who remained strong and clear-minded at 85 did not arrive there through a single breakthrough or a brief period of intense effort. They arrived there through decades of consistent patterns: how they moved, what they ate, how they managed stress, how they began each day. This is both a responsibility and a freedom. It is a responsibility because your choices matter. It is a freedom because you are making those choices constantly. And each one is an opportunity to invest in your future self. The morning you have tomorrow is an opportunity. The morning after that is another. There is no deadline, no final exam, no point at which it becomes too late to benefit from better practices. Part 9. A calm conclusion. Returning to the beginning. We began with a question. What does this body of mine require right now, in this moment, as it makes the transition from rest to activity? The answer, it turns out, is simple and consistent across the years. It requires water, because the night has left it thirsty. It requires gentle movement, because stillness has left it stiff. It requires nourishment, because fasting has left it depleted. It requires joint mobility, because lubrication supports ease of motion. It requires mental engagement, because the brain benefits from daily stimulation. These are not extraordinary demands. They are the ordinary needs of a body that has been resting and is now preparing for activity. Meeting them requires no special knowledge, no expensive equipment, no radical lifestyle changes. It requires only attention and consistency, a willingness to notice what the body is saying and to respond with small, appropriate actions. The gift of attention. There is something deeper here than physiology. The act of attending to your body each morning is a form of self-respect. It is a statement that you matter, that your comfort and function matter, that the quality of your days matters. In a world that often tells older adults they are invisible, this daily attention is a quiet rebellion. The practices described in this essay are not about chasing youth or denying age. They are about living fully in the body you have, at the age you are, with gratitude for all that body has carried you through. They are about making the small adjustments that allow you to continue doing what matters, moving through your days with steadiness, clarity, and confidence. An invitation. Tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, consider pausing before you rush into the day. Notice the light coming through the window. Notice how your body feels after its night of rest. Then, one small step at a time, begin. Drink some water. Move gently. Eat something nourishing. Lubricate your joints. Recall yesterday's journey. These are not obligations, but opportunities, chances to begin the day in a way that honors who you are and where you have been. The research is clear. The principles are simple. The only remaining question is whether you will offer yourself this gift. Tomorrow morning, the answer can be yes. And the morning after that. And the morning after that. One day at a time. One small practice at a time. Building the foundation for a life of sustained strength and clarity. There is no need for perfection. There is only the gentle, consistent effort to treat yourself with the same care you would offer someone you love. That effort, accumulated over days and months and years, is the architecture of a long life well lived. The practices we've explored together are not secrets. They are not breakthroughs or discoveries. They are simply the body asking for what it has always needed: water upon waking, gentle movement before demand, nourishment when muscles are most receptive, joint lubrication before weight-bearing, mental engagement when the brain is freshly oxygenated. These 5 small investments, requiring no more than 15 minutes each morning, cannot stop time. Nothing can. but they can change the trajectory of how you move through the years ahead. They can mean the difference between a body that hesitates and a body that responds, between a mind that searches for words and a mind that finds them, between dependence and the quiet dignity of taking care of yourself. If these ideas have stirred something in you, a memory of a body that once moved more easily, or a hope for years still to come, we would be honored to hear your thoughts in the comments. What small morning practices have you discovered that make a difference in your own life? What questions remain? If you would like to explore more of what we have archived in the Longevity Library, we invite you to browse our other videos and to subscribe so that you do not miss the wisdom yet to come. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.